Today's Bible reading is from the book of Acts in the 16th chapter. One day, as we were going to the place of prayer, we met a slave girl who had a spirit of divination and brought her owners a great deal of money by fortune-telling. While she followed Paul and us, she would cry out, "These men are slaves of the Most High God, who proclaim to you a way of salvation." She kept doing this for many days. But Paul, very much annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I order you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her." And it came out that very hour. But when her owners saw that their hope of making money was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace before the authorities. When they had brought them before the magistrates, they said, "These men are disturbing our city. They are Jews and are advocating customs that are not lawful for us as Romans to adopt or observe." The crowd joined in attacking them, and the magistrates had them stripped of their clothing and ordered them to be beaten with rods. After they had given them a severe flogging, they threw them into prison and ordered the jailer to keep them securely. Following these instructions, he put them in the innermost cell and fastened their feet in the stocks. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly, there was an earthquake so violent that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were opened, and everyone's chains were unfastened. When the jailer woke up and saw the prison doors wide open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself, since he supposed that the prisoners had escaped. But Paul shouted in a loud voice, "Do not harm yourself, for we are all here." The jailer called for lights, and rushing in, he fell down trembling before Paul and Silas. Then he brought them outside and said, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They answered, "Believe on the Lord Jesus, and you will be saved, you and your household." They spoke the word of the Lord to him and to all who were in his house. At the same hour of the night he took them and washed their wounds. Then he and his entire family were baptized without delay. He brought them up into the house and set food before them, and he and his entire household rejoiced that he had become a believer in God. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Paul and Silas in Philippi. Before we get there, let me ask if you understand this cartoon. Maybe you've had that experience. I'll read it for you if you can't read it. Boss talking to an employee. "I want you to find a bold and innovative way to do everything exactly the same way it's been done for the last 25 years. A new innovative way of doing everything exactly the same." Ever been in that spot before? It happens. Because everybody knows there needs to be some changes, but no one really wants to change. Change. It's been said that no one likes change except a baby with a dirty diaper, and then only when it's finished. Is there anything that complicates our lives more than change? I think we have this love-hate relationship with change. We love change on the one hand because we gain new perspectives, we see new things, we experience new things, we can kind of spread our wings to some degree. But we hate it because we have to adapt to things, we have to change our schedules, we have to do things differently. Things that were just second nature to us, now we've got to think about. Change can create a lot of anxiety. Change is inconvenient at the very least. Whenever change happens, it upsets the world that we know. I think change is always happening. It's always happening around us. In part, the question is the magnitude and the pace of the change. Sometimes there are very big things that need to be done, and that can be disturbing, but if you can do those at the right pace, you can reduce how disturbing it is. And sometimes it's just something little, but if you do it very abruptly, it can be very disturbing. Pace, magnitude. Have you ever heard the phrase, every dog has its day? Okay? It's a proverb of sorts that says every person, place, thing, they have their day. They kind of rise up to the top when it's that moment. But then those fade, only to be replaced with other people, places, and things that now are the thing. And on and on and on it goes. Change, kind of continuous. Regardless of what we think of progress, change forces us to adapt our old frameworks, the things in which we place everything. Change is often inconvenient and even disturbing. And yet some things we would never change back. Democracy disturbed monarchies. Want to go back? Nah. Cars disturbed horse breeders. You want to go back? Email disturbed the postal system and envelope companies. Computers put typewriter companies completely out of business. We've gone through all kinds of technologies, reel-to-reels. We've got VCRs, DVDs, and all of those things had their day. And yet, that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of what's happened just in the last 10 years. The pace of the change is so rapid anymore. And yet, as one writer said, few people are crying that Edison put lantern companies out of business. I, for one, don't cry at all over that. I love it when I can walk into a room and flip the switch and the light comes on. I don't have to worry about where's the lantern, where's the fuel, and do I have a match. I simply flip the switch. We have changes that happen in the Bible too. Some of them are huge shifts. Moses at the burning bush. So much change after that. You work your way all the way up through the empty tomb of Jesus. Is there a bigger shift than that? Jesus himself said, you can't put new wine into old wineskins. Why? Because you're going to burst the wineskin, you lose it and the wine. Something happens with Paul and Silas on this missionary journey. They go to Philippi. Something shifts. Paul casts out this spirit out of this slave girl. And they end up being dragged before the officials of the town. And the charges leveled against them is that they're disturbing the whole place. They're disturbing the whole town. Because these owners can't make any money anymore. She doesn't have the power to do that anymore. And so everybody kind of gets in on the act. And finally, the magistrates ordered that they are stripped down, they're beaten with rods, and then thrown into the prison. And then they're given specific instructions to really watch these guys. So the jailer throws them in the most secure spot of all in the entire prison. And then, just to make sure, he locks their feet down too. I don't know about you, but it seems a bit extreme for what Paul did. I would expect Paul to be complaining about the injustice of it all. Why are he and Silas standing? All we hear, though, is that they're there, they're praying, they're preaching, they're singing. And all along comes at midnight, the strangest earthquake in the world. It's an earthquake that's so violent, it opens the doors, all the doors in the prison. It shakes loose every chain on every prisoner, but somehow doesn't destroy the building. So you can understand the confusion when the jailer wakes up. He sees all the doors open, he expects the worst. He expects them all to be gone, because what prisoner in their right mind would stay? So he draws a sword, he's going to kill himself, because he knows that's going to be the penalty. He lost all the prisoners, he gets the punishment. he might be tortured ahead of time. So rather than to go through all that, he's just going to kill himself. The jailer just doesn't grasp what's going on because Paul says to him, don't do it. We're all here. Everyone's accounted for. He can't get his head around this. He knows it has something to do with these two guys. There's something about these two guys. He knows what they were charged with. He's heard what they've had to say. He's heard them pray. He's heard the songs they've sung. And so he rushes over them and says, what do I need to do to be saved? Something breaks through in this jailer's life. The gospel comes and flips his world upside down. It completely disturbs him. It won't leave him the same again. The jailer begins to take care of the wounds of Paul and Silas. Up to that moment, he could care less. He didn't even arrange for one of his subordinates to do it. But now he's going to do it. And then he does the unthinkable. He takes Paul and Silas to his home, to his family. And there they have a celebration. What time did this take place? It took place at midnight. That's when the earthquake took place. So you figure, give him a little time. By 1 o'clock, he's throwing a party at his house. Man's world's turned upside down. You know that's going to cause some conversations with neighbors in the next following days? That gospel is going to continue to disturb people. This change, the gospel, it has a way of disturbing our lives. And I want to point out just 3 things very quickly in the text where I think it disturbs our world. First, the jailer learns that you're valued for who you are, not what you do. We have kind of the same problem as the jailer did. A belief that what we do makes us who we are. If we don't achieve a certain level of success in some fashion, however that's going to be defined, then we're failures. We're not worth a whole lot. That's why the jailer was going to take his own life. Because at that point, his life was worthless. Oxford University did a study on what happened between 2008 and 2010 during the most recent recession that we had. They said there were 10,000 what they called economic suicides. People who lost their jobs, their retirements, their homes, lost their savings. They felt as though they were worthless, and they took their lives. And that doesn't touch on the ones who not only took their own lives, but first murdered their families for the same reason. That mindset's still around even to this day. But Paul and Silas, through their words and their actions, help the jailer understand he's worth something. They know he is. They call out to him. And they've got a message to share with him that changes his whole life. He's a precious child of God, and so are we. We talked about that a few weeks ago in that What a Mess series. That our worth is because we are created in the image of God. Our worth is determined by God, not by what we can do and produce. Second thing, that we're saved by faith in Jesus, and not all the other stuff. After hearing the word of the Lord, the jailer takes care of their wounds, he takes them to his house, he throws a party. He is changing his whole life. All the gods he's ever worshipped up till now, he's going to leave behind. Now, you and I aren't pagan people, so we don't have a whole bunch of gods, right? And yet we still fight all the time of societal standards about what's success, about what is popular, about what is beautiful, what is worthwhile. And whenever we allow one of those things to get that top spot in our lives, that's an idol. That is another god of sorts. And we have to fight that. So we may not have the same pagan Roman gods that he did, but we still fight against those tendencies. He gave up all of that to follow Jesus. Third thing is, our faith is personal, but it's not private. We get that confused sometimes. Certainly, our faith is very personal, but we tend to make it an individual thing, where it's just between me and Jesus, and that's all that matters. That's not true. Because by very nature, when I'm connected to Jesus, I am connected to his entire body. That means all those who believe in Christ. Automatically, I'm connected to all of you. My faith isn't private to me. It's personal. It's not private. And then on top of that, Jesus actually expects us to live it out. And where are the communities that we live in? So I automatically have to connect with those people as well. So not just other believers, but other people. Our faith is terribly personal, but never private. The jailer got that, because he invited Paul and Silas back to his home. And it says the whole household, not just his wife and children, but everybody under his care. Any servants that he had, and the families of those servants. That's the whole household. And he knew that he had to share that with all of them. He knew it was going to impact all of them. This faith in Jesus can be a very disturbing force in our lives. There's a story about a young woman who comes to her father and just says, I'm just having one problem after another. I'm just sick and tired of it all. Her father was a chef. She says, come in the kitchen. You go in the kitchen, he fills up 3 pots with water and turns them on high on the stove, and he just waits. He's like, Dad, come on, just wait. They come to a boil, and he puts potatoes in one, eggs in another, coffee beans in the third. He says, Dad, just wait. Okay? So they wait, which to her is an interminably long time. But then after a few minutes, he turns it all off. He takes the potatoes out, puts them in the bowl, the eggs out, puts them in the bowl, lays some of the coffee out into a cup. And he says, what do you see? He says, potatoes, eggs, coffee. He says, no, look deeper. Each one of these faced the same adversity. But each one reacted differently. The potato went in stern and hard, came out soft and mushy. The egg, so fragile when it went in, comes out firm and hard on the inside. The coffee beans, they're the only ones that really changed the water and made something different. So when you face adversity, you have to decide, are you going to be a potato, an egg, or a coffee bean? Because it's not just about what happens on the outside, it's what happens on the inside. That force, the changes, happen around us all the time. The changes happen within us all the time. But it's really the question of, what's that faith in Christ doing to us inside that's going to make the difference? Because it can be a very disturbing force. It changes everything about our lives. It forces us to examine everything we hold dear. To know, is it true? The change that it forces us to look at is change in the best of ways. The gospel is disturbing as well as comforting. And today we're about to receive a meal that Jesus gave to us. He took the simple elements of the Passover meal and he connected them to his work on the cross. So that the bread isn't just bread, it's his body. The wine isn't just wine, it's his blood. These simple elements are so much more than they once were. They aren't just what they appear. It's what he does in them and through them and with them. This meal places us squarely in the middle of God's marvelous grace and love. A simple meal that places us firmly within the hand of God. And I invite you to come. I invite you to receive. invite you to be dismissed.